Mark, Dallas Morning News. When you're coming off a loss like this, do you pay more attention to where the team is emotionally, or with the culture you have in place, do you feel that the players are going to police that and hold themselves accountable more than you in these situations?
I mean, there's always conversations, and I think the norm, in my experience, is when it doesn't go well the week before, they may last a little longer early in the week. But you know, I can promise you, we're truly focused on this next contest, and that's where we're pouring our energy into.
Clarence Hill for Star Telegram. Rashawn Evans practiced today. What did you expect him to do today, and how soon can he contribute?
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was good to have him out there. I mean, obviously he's played a lot of football, so I'll get a chance to watch him today in pads.
Any idea why he was? I know he had career high tackles last year with Atlanta. Why he would be on the street? Somebody was that.
I do not. I just know, you know, speaking with Will, when we're talking about availability and that possible position, and you know, when his name come up, but the background of what happened, I do not have any information.
I'm Mike Todd Archer with ESPN. When you have such a big injury list and a lot of guys getting days off, how much can you accomplish? What can you get out of it when a lot of your starters aren't out there?
I think just like anything, I mean, so much of what we do is time clock timing, you know. So, you know, your pace operation, you know, we got to do a better job in the pre-snap focus. So, I mean, yeah, it's all by design. So, I mean, there's reps that you're able to hit. So, you know, a lot of those guys that were on the limited list did take some reps. So, yeah, I felt like I'd like to work yesterday. I thought we had a good Wednesday.
And the rest guys yesterday, they'll be back.
They'll be practicing today, yes.
Kyle Yones, DallasCowboys.com. Coach, when you are going into a matchup like this with the front seven that the Chargers bring to the table, how imperative is it for this offensive line to be working as a cohesive unit and rely on a guy like Zach Mark up front?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you know, I'm looking for us to take another step. You know, take a step as an offensive line. This will be our second opportunity together. So it'll be really good to get a full week's work. But yeah, it's going to be imperative to how you function on offense. And I mean, this is a front, and particularly in pass rush. I mean, I think their numbers speak for themselves. We've been very impressed with the tape, you know, the design of it, and you know, the scheme, multiplicity, the challenge that they give you. So, but yeah, it all starts up front. It definitely does for us.
Mike Edwarder, ESPN. What causes you the most concern about where you are offensively, and what are your points of emphasis this week in trying to resolve some of the challenges?
You know, I think those are more you know, things you look at, you know, on Mondays, but I'm into the plan of how we're going to attack their defense. So I wouldn't say I have, you know, I'm more focused on the attack mode than the, you know, we've done our self-scout. We're in tune with, you know, what we've done. I think a big thing is what we put on tape, you know, particularly in the details of the, you know, of the mannerisms and the, you know, and how we played and how it's going to line up against these guys.
Calvin
Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Turpin, what's his status?
I think Turp practices today, you know, so so he's on back at it.
In your experience, when do you know a team has moved on from the previous opponents? One thing to have the practices and those kinds of things. When do you emotionally feel like a team has moved on?
I mean, just like anything, there's patterns to everything that we do. I mean, there's patterns in how you prepare, and I think there's two realms that you function in, and you know, it's the emotional, the mental, and the physical. So I think physically, you know, the way this week has laid up, I think it's, you know, it served us well. The extra day is always a benefit. You know, you're 6 weeks into a season, so you know, everybody's dinged up a little bit. So that's been a benefit, and obviously the emotional part of it, we've had to deal with more coming out of you know, the result of the past game. So I mean, it's just got a little more work to do there, and mentally, you know, these guys they work hard. I mean, I like the way they prepare, and so there doesn't seem to be any drop off there. So I mean, just watch the numbers, your instincts, your awareness. You know, the coaches holding the coaches accountable to make sure that we're pushing the envelope on these guys as far as the demand and the teach, and so you just stay true to your basics.
Son,
yeah, like Mike, for road game preparations, does it vary based on the city and venue? Meaning, you know, like the snap count and stuff like that, with how many Cowboys fans might be in LA versus Philadelphia and things like that.
Definitely. I mean, we're super fortunate to have the fan base that we have, you know, so we definitely anticipate it being, you know, potentially a silent count for both teams, you know, because, you know, one thing I've learned, you know, is, you know, our fans show up in a big way, but they also make the other side scream a little louder too. So, but yes, I mean, I learned that quickly in my first year here.
Scholar.
Skyler Dixon with the AP. What do you remember about the bright spot that was Terrence Steele in 2020 when that was such a rough year for everybody?
Well, I mean, you always remember the first impression, and you know, it's just you know, probably his attitude, his approach, his work ethic, is the things that you know, I think you know, it's just like anything. You've seen it over time. Is you get a young man like Terrence, and particularly when you get to the padded work, you're like, well, you know, you ask the question why this guy wasn't drafted. So, but he made a very strong, you know, first impression, and you know, he just continues to grow. He's coming, you know, he's working through that first year back from a major injury, and you know, the guy hasn't blinked. He hasn't missed a practice.
Mike, obviously the most important thing to both sides is to win the game, but is there a personal element to this with you, with Kellen on the other side calling the plays, knowing that people are going to make the inevitable comparisons about offensive performance?
No, not really. There's really no bells and whistles for this one. This is Game 6. You know, my focus has always been, and it's really the way I view schedules. I think a lot of NFL scheduling, in my opinion, it's not as much who you play, it's when you play them. So, I mean, one of the things I've always checked is when you come out of you know, how many teams come out of their bye playing you, you know, and so, you know, I'm more focused on that. You know, that's, you know, I know that's all part of the game. So, I mean, he obviously has an excellent opportunity that he's doing a very nice job with.
Todd.
What changes if or when Eckler plays with their run game? What do you expect maybe that you hadn't seen since the opener?
Talking about changing how they play or how we're going to play.
What do you expect from them in the running game? Do you expect more of it?
Well, he's a featured player, number one. So I mean, it's ability to, you know, touch the ball both inside and outside. You know, obviously when he's on the perimeter, you know, he's an extremely dangerous player. So I think clearly is when you talk about targets and you know, where he lines up and how they utilize him, you know, the one back and the things that come off of that.
What do you like about Malik Jefferson, what you've seen, if he has to come in and step in for late?
Pro, very consistent. You know, obviously commands respect, you know, as a veteran, which I think, you know, when you're in his position, I think speaks volumes to him as an individual. So he's very well respected, you know, both the linebacker, defense, and in a special team room. So, you know, he gives us good versatility.
What have you seen? Why hasn't it stuck for him in the past? A former third-round pick and a couple different teams, been on practice squad.
I mean, everybody has a different journey. You know, I can't speak on his opportunities before here, but you know, I just think, like anything, we are so fortunate to have this, you know, this expanded practice squad because there's so many outstanding football players, you know, based on the caponomics and, you know, the financial alignments that go on in our league that, you know, whether you want to call them the middle class or, you know, you want to categorize a lot of these veterans. So I'm just glad that we do have the structure because there's a lot of excellent football players like Malik.
Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com. What kind of added responsibility aligns for Damone Clark in the second level with Wayne now?
Well, you know, we'll answer that after we play the game. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously been some adjustments that we got to make with Leighton. So, but you know, Damone's doing a really good job. Has flexibility. So we'll see how that pans out.
Is there anything from a leadership standpoint?
Oh yeah, no, he's definitely one of the young guys that's growing in that area. So yeah, you know, it's a really good young guy presence.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio. Mike, you just said one of the things you look at in the schedule is who do you play coming off their bye. And since this team is coming off its bye, what do you normally expect from a team in that situation?
I think, you know, it's our responsibility as a coaching staff to take a little deeper dive. So I think you have to do that. So obviously, when you look at their season, you know how it started the first 2 weeks and the way it played, you know, weeks 3 and 4 for them. So I think with the, you know, we're fortunate with the extra day. So I feel like we're in a good place.
Dave.
Mike, when you have the injury like you did to Leighton, and you're putting together the defensive game plan for the next week that comes pretty quick, do you have to spend all the first part of your time determining just how are we going to use a guy like Micah with this out? Does he factor in here or not? Because everything stems from that. And do you always just focus it just on this week versus, well, he's going to be out 4 to 6, or do you just talk about what's best for this week?
I mean, are we talking about communication or scheme utilization? Because I mean,
Well, I would think you would have to determine, does this alter his role or not as you set the game plan defensively going forward?
well, I mean, that's always the focal point. I mean, that's something that, I mean, you could ask me that every week. I mean, how are you going to utilize Micah? I mean, because it's, I think it's been evident since he arrived here. We continue to move him around and try to create opportunities for him. And then with that, their reaction to where he aligns creates, opportunities for others. So, I mean, that approach will never change. But Leighton's communications, presence, and and scheme concept flexes was the highest of our time here. So you do lose some of that, but we feel like we're in a good place.
Alrighty, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.